Want to learn how to do a quick analysis on a cash-on-cash rate of return? That's the topic on this next video. Welcome everyone, this is Ruben Galindo with San Antonio's Finest Realty. I'm a real estate agent and a real estate investor. And I wanted to give you a quick video on how to do a quick cash-on-cash rate of return analysis. When I'm out looking for properties, one of the things that you always want to look for is this investment a good investment? So how do you determine that? One of the ways of determining that is what kind of return of investment or rate of return are you getting on that investment. And one way of doing that is determining what the cash on cash rate of return is. So this is how we begin with that. All right, so let's use an example. Let's use the example of a purchase price on a home of $150,000. 20% of that is $30,000, so that's what you're gonna have to put down on a 20% down conventional loan. Next, let's assume that the closing costs are $5,000. Now you're up to $35,000 investment. And then finally, let's also assume that all it needs is just cosmetic type of repairs. Paint, maybe new flooring, and some appliances. And let's go ahead and make the assumption that those total costs were $5,000. So now let's add all this up together. $30,000 for your down payment, $5,000 for your closing cost, and an additional $5,000 for those cosmetic repairs, for a grand total of $40,000. All right, next, on a $150,000 purchase with your 20% down, you're gonna have to finance $120,000. Let's assume, based on the current rate today, what I've been able to determine is on a 30-year conventional loan with a credit score of over 740 FICO score, then your interest rate is 5.125. At 30 years, let's go ahead and assume that the taxes, the average tax where I invest is about $4,000 a year. For the type of property that I have purchased, my annual insurance rates have been about $800, and the average HOA fee has been about $35 a month. When you combine all those expenses, then the total PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, is about $1056 approximately. Now add an additional $35 for your HOA fees. With the HOA fee added to that $1056, you're now at $1091. Now let's assume that the rent market for that, where that property is located at, is $1,500 a month. That is your gross rent. You have to calculate a vacancy rate. You also have to calculate a capital expense rate. And if you hire out the management, that's an additional expense that you're gonna have. In my case, I self-manage, so therefore the only thing I'm gonna calculate in this example is 5% vacancy rate and an additional 5% of capital X or CapEx expense. And that CapEx, 5% capital expense, is to apply to any repairs that may be needed in the future. When you add those totals, if we're assuming 5% for vacancy, that will be $75 for the vacancy rate. If we're assuming that the CapEx rate is also 5%, that's an additional $75. Now the total for that is $150. So you take that $1,500 and you subtract your vacancy rate and your CapEx rate. That is $150 total, which leaves you a balance of $1,350. So now let's take that $1,350 and subtract it from your PITI to include HOA, which was a grand total of $1091. When you subtract that $1091 from the $1,350, you get an amount of $259. Next, let's go ahead and multiply that $259 by 12. So what is that $259? That is what's considered your net cash flow for that piece of property. and you take that net cash flow and you multiply that by 12. In this case, $259 times 12 is $3,108. So that is your total annual net cash flow for that property. Next, you take that total annual cash flow, which was $3,018, and you subtract that by your initial investment, which was $30,000 for the down payment, $5,000 for the closing cost, and an additional $5,000 for your cosmetic repairs. So you take that $3,018 and you divide it by $40,000, which gives you 0.777%. You move the decimal to the right twice, that gives you 7.7%. And that 7.7% is what your cash on cash rate of return is. Is that a good investment? That's something that you have to decide. Would you be able to take that $40,000, invest it somewhere else, and make more than 7.7%? Only you can decide that, because you know where you invest your money. So I hope that helped you understand a little more on how to determine a cash on cash rate of return. If I can be of any assistance to you out there, please let me know. Reach out to me. I've been investing a little over 3 years now. So subscribe to my YouTube videos so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Again, please hit the like button, subscribe to my video. If I can be of any assistance, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.